Here's the chart for the police officer charged with third-degree murder in the death of George Floyd. And as there is no time of birth known, there will be a limit on the information that can be drawn. But with the day information, we know that Jupiter is squaring Saturn, and we know that the triple conjunction in Capricorn is opposing Saturn and squaring Jupiter. And most probably either Jupiter or Saturn or both are going to be quite prominent in the actual chart. For example, Saturn might be rising or culminating, or perhaps Jupiter is doing that. And so then this kind of triple conjunction is going to be a lot more important in the transit scheme. The other thing that is going on is Neptune isn't quite finished with Mercury. At the moment it's 20 degrees plus, approaching 21, but it's going to backtrack and still station pretty close to these degrees. So it isn't done with this transit. So this planet is probably involved as well. And then we also know that he's on his Uranus opposition, which is a moment in life when almost everyone experiences important events, important turns in one's life situation. Of course, without an ascendant from a birth time, it's not really easy to know what the final outcome of this would be, because other than knowing that a chart like this with these planets for sure until next year in February or March, when Uranus will be through the opposition, and then Saturn and Jupiter will be in Aquarius by then, but Pluto will still be transiting such that it'll be opposing Saturn and squaring Jupiter, but we don't know what this Pluto is connected to in the chart. Typically, when a person like this ends up in a long-term prison sentence, you find the Pluto connected to the 12th sign, for example. This is what happened to Bernie Madoff when he finally was put in prison. But of course, in the case of Bernie Madoff, his Pluto was more complicated than this particular Pluto, by the way it was lining up with his planets. So that was one of the reasons. In this person's chart, we simply don't know. We know for sure that 2020, the second half of 2020, is going to be quite difficult, but of course anyone could tell you that. It's an obvious thing. A few things that can be said about his chart. Pisces, though it can be the most compassionate sign, certainly not always. I've seen plenty of Pisces individuals who turn to the worst possible crime. So nothing is guaranteed based on any particular sun sign or other. And you see in this chart with the very late Pisces sun in a geometric, pretty tight square to Mars. And right away you see the potential for aggression, and this is emphasized by the primary ruler of Pisces. Jupiter is also in Aries. And the second ruler, Neptune, in Sagittarius, is not going to help very much. It's a fiery sign, so that isn't going to enhance any kind of feeling nature. And notice the Neptune-Mercury square, the same square that afflicts Trump's chart, which, if you happen to be interested in meditating, do a lot of that. It's a wonderful aspect, but in other cases can be a really negative influence through woolly-minded thinking, confused thinking, and just generally not a very bright alignment. And then we notice the moon in Scorpio also isn't going to help very much on the compassion side. I mean, let's face it, he can't be very connected to that area at all. There's no possible way a person does what he did if he has any level of humanity. So I'll end by saying that to find out where this guy is going, what's going to happen with the charges and everything else, we probably have to look at that timeline in early 2021 as Saturn and Jupiter leave Capricorn, Pluto is left over, and Uranus especially doing a stationary opposition to itself early in 2021 will probably be key to what will happen in his life from that point forward. And in the near term, notice that this Mercury at 17 is in the path of the full moon eclipse that we have coming up in Gemini Sagittarius. So it's actually Mercury and the square that it forms to Neptune. And this is typical when you see a person get into a jam like this, that the event itself happens a little before the eclipse. This is something that happens quite a bit in astrology. The eclipse is coming up Thursday and Friday of this next week.